Let's take a look at a couple of examples of these variation problems. The first thing we need to do is to figure out what kind of variation we have. We have direct, inverse, and joint. The question is, what do we have in this problem? This first part of this problem says y varies inversely as x. So that gives us a clue that we have an inverse variation. If you go back to the notes from the first video, here are the three equations. For direct, it's y equals kx. For inverse, it's y equals k over x. And joint is y equals kxz. We had an inverse variation problem, so we're going to use this equation. Y equals k over x. Now, we want to find y when x is 5. So, if we plug in 5 for x, which hopefully makes sense, we'd end up with this. And that presents a problem in finding y, because we don't know what k is. We need to know what this constant k is in order to find y. So let's back up a step. We know that it's an inverse variation, and we've got some other information that we can use to find this value, for this k value. We were told that y equals 2/3 when x is -6. And that's the information that we can use to find k. So we know that y is 2/3, so let's plug in 2/3. We don't know k yet. And y is 2/3 when x is -6. And this gives us an equation that we can solve to find k. We can multiply both sides of this by -6. That leaves us with k equals, and -6 times 2/3 is -4. So now here we were able to find that k is -4. So now we have the information we need to find y when x is 5. Because instead of k here, we can put -4. So y, in this case, is simply -4/5. So this is kind of a three-step process. Figure out what kind of variation we have. In this case, it's inverse. Find k using the information that's given. And then find the other variable that you're looking for. Let's take a look at another example. Okay, again, the first step to these is to figure out what kind of variation you have. This problem says y varies jointly, so we know that we have a joint variation here, as x and z. And if we go back to our notes from that previous video, we've got direct, joint, or inverse. Here's our joint variation equation. Y equals kxz. So that's the equation we're going to use for this one. So y equals kxz. And we know that y is 4, or when y is 4, x is -2 and z is 3. So we don't know k yet, but x is -2 and z is 3. Now the first step was figuring out what kind of variation we have. That's the joint. The second step is to find k, and that's what we're starting to do here. And we've got an equation here that we can solve for k. So k times -2 times 3, that's -6k. And if you divide both sides by -6 here, we get k equals, and then 4 over -6, that reduces to -2/3. So k in this case is -2/3.